Hey everyone, welcome to Dive Deeper.
Hey everybody.
First of all, I just want to say congratulations to Andros, who got baptized on Sunday. We're so excited for you and how you're going deeper in your faith and how you want to make Jesus the center of your life, and that's awesome. So if anyone else is interested in getting baptized, talk to your Dive Deeper leader, because I think a few of you have mentioned that you want to get baptized soon. So we would love to talk more about what that means and figure out a time that would work.
All right, so a couple of announcements that I want to mention. First thing, at last Riley night, I mentioned about the new program starting at The Spot, an art space on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 5, where Lori will be teaching watercolor painting. So we'd love to have you come hang out. And actually, you don't even have to paint if you don't want to. We'd love you to. But if you want to just come on Tuesdays after school and hang out down in The Spot, we'd love that too. So that's starting this coming Tuesday.
Cool. All right, next announcement. Remember, OneCon forms are due May 3rd, so that's the next rally night, and you need your full $120 registration fee at that time. So if you need to do some work for your parents or a neighbor to raise some money, make sure to start doing that soon so that you can get your form and your money in for May 3rd.
All right, time for an icebreaker question. When you're really stressed out, what helps you calm down and find peace?
Okay, so this week, Acts chapter 18, Paul goes to Corinth, which is a city in Greece, and he preaches the gospel there and forms a church and stays there for a year and a half.
And we're introduced to a couple new characters, Priscilla and Aquila. They were Jewish followers of Jesus, just like Paul, and they get kicked out of Rome and move to Corinth. So they work together with Paul teaching about Jesus.
Yeah, then they all travel to Ephesus, a city in Turkey across the sea. And Paul leaves Priscilla and Aquila there to teach the church, but Paul goes back to his home church near Jerusalem.
And this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Another new character comes into the story, a guy named Apollos. He moves to Ephesus and he's teaching about Jesus in the Jewish synagogue. So pause now and read Acts 18, verses 24 to 26.
All right, so this Apollos guy, he knows a bunch of stuff about Jesus, but apparently not everything, because he hadn't been baptized in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, like Jesus said to do. He had just received the baptism of John the Baptist. And Priscilla and Aquila take him aside in private and teach him more stuff about Jesus.
Okay, so here the story takes another twist. Remember, Priscilla and Aquila and Apollos were in Ephesus, but then Apollos goes over to Corinth, the city where we read about earlier, where Paul had started a church. And then he helped the church there.
Yeah, so here's where it's interesting to read the book of Acts alongside the other letters in the New Testament that Paul writes to these various churches. In his first letter to the Corinthians, he mentions Apollos a few times. And it seems like some of the Christians in Corinth were being divided based on which leader they thought was the best or something like that. And Paul's like, no, don't say you're following me or following Apollos or whoever. Just follow Jesus. So pause now and read this chunk from 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 4 to 8. All right, so the first point I think Paul's making is that we shouldn't primarily focus on a certain Christian leader to define our faith and to compare ourselves to other people about who's better. Like in our youth group, right? You guys shouldn't be like, oh, I follow Oliver, he's the best, or Shauna's my favorite leader, right? She's the one who I follow, or Caleb's Dive Deeper group is better than Melissa's, right? Or anything like that. We shouldn't be divided based on following different Christian leaders. We should all just follow Jesus.
Interesting. And also, sometimes people compare different denominations, us Baptists are better than the Wesleyan Church, or something like that. But we shouldn't be prideful and think that our church or our denomination is the best. We just need to focus on following Jesus and encourage people from other churches to do the same thing.
Yeah, totally. So then Paul makes this point about how he planted the seed of the gospel and Apollos watered it. And so what's the significance of that? Well, remember back in Acts, Paul starts the church in Corinth. That's him planting the seed. It's a gardening metaphor. He was the one who first brought the message of the gospel of Jesus to the Corinthians. But then afterward, Apollos came and taught them and helped them grow. That's like watering the seed in the metaphor. But then Paul says it's not important who plants or waters. What's important is that God is the one who makes it grow.
Okay, so Paul is saying that different Christian leaders serve different functions, right? Maybe one person is really good at evangelism, really good at getting people to come to faith in Jesus. But then another leader is really good at teaching and helping people go deeper. And maybe someone else is really good at caring for people, people who are hurting or going through a tough time.
Yeah, so different people are good at different things and contribute differently to the work of the church. And they're all equally important. And ultimately, we're all just being used by God because He is the one who really makes people grow as disciples of Jesus. And that's not just for like official church leaders in the church, like pastors or even youth leaders, right? But all of you all have a part to play in helping people grow closer to Jesus. Some of you might plant seeds, you might tell people about Jesus, but maybe you won't actually be the person who leads them to decide to follow Jesus. Maybe someone else will do that. And that's okay.
Right.
We all play a different role, but God is the one who does the real work.
Yeah, or maybe some of you won't be evangelists. You won't be telling everyone about Jesus, but you see someone at church or youth group or even at school who's on the outside. Maybe they're not part of the insider club or whatever it is in that setting, and you're really good at making that person feel included and helping them connect with the group. That's another amazing way that you can be used by God to help people grow closer to Jesus.
Yeah, okay, so this segment has been a little longer without a discussion break because there are kind of a couple aspects that went together in the explanation, but I think that they should be discussed as two separate questions, okay? So here's the first one. So remember, the Corinthians compared who was their favorite leader, Paul or Apollos. So here's the question. What are examples of unhealthy attitudes for you guys to have about Christian leaders in your life? What might be examples of healthier attitudes to have?
And then when you're done discussing that question, talk about this one. Paul says that he planted the seed and Apollos made it grow, and every role is equally important. What ways could you see yourself being used by God to help people grow closer to Jesus? Do you ever feel like that's less important than what other people do?